What's going on, guys? It's Corey from SuperKamiGuru9000, and this is my review of Bleach Chapter 461. This week's chapter was a big chapter, and that's no understatement. There were big revelations and really, really big panels, so let's just go ahead and jump into it. Basically, this week we got to catch up with Ichigo again as he's continuing his attack on Ginjo in the beginning, and oddly enough, considering how big his attack was last week, he completely missed, but he put on this badass front basically saying, "I won't miss the next time." And when Ginjo sees this, he completely freaks out and acts like a pussy and decides to just get the hell out of there. But it doesn't matter because Ichigo's really, really powerful now, and he appears just right in front of him and grabs him and throws him up way into the sky and hits him with another Getsuga Tensho, which is what I'm assuming it is. And this is the part of the chapter where you get to see the artist Kubo. You know, he loves to do these really, really big panels. And, you know, maybe at this point, maybe it's just his style. A lot of people like to consider what he's doing lazy, and I can't really tell at this point. I think it's kind of a mixture of the two, really, because throughout the whole chapter, like I said, there's a lot of big panels, but when he uses this attack, there's this one page where I swear about 80% of the page is just white. And I guess we're just supposed to assume that this is Ichigo's attack. And I guess it's a cool way of showing how, you know, powerful it is and how big it encompasses when he actually uses it. But honestly, it could go either way. It could just be lazy drawing. So Ginjo gets hit square with this Getsuga Tensho, and it's obvious he's not gone yet. He even states himself, "This isn't going to be enough to kill me." But while this is going on, we cut back to Ichigo, who's having some thoughts of his old comrades and the people who's helped him in the past. And we get to see all of those people we saw from the last chapter appear behind Ichigo again. And they basically let him know, you know, it's not just us who was able to give you this new power in our Reiatsu. And we cut to a little bit of a flashback. We go to see what happens before all this stuff was going on, before the training arc. And we get to see there's a little bit more involved with the creation of that sword that was used to give Ichigo his powers back. We can see that Urahara was there, and he was actually with the Captain Commander, you know, the guy who's in charge of the entire Gote 13. And we find out it wasn't just that small group of people from the last chapter that gave Ichigo his powers. We see here the commander actually gave the order that every single captain and every single vice captain is to pour their Reiatsu basically into the sword, and that's what's going to power up Ichigo. And this is a huge, huge deal. This huge decision by the Captain Commander is a huge deal for Soul Society, and it really speaks a lot about how they've changed since the beginning of the series when they were first introduced. It really shows that Ichigo is coming into his own, and he's really shaping the way that Soul Society has changed, and it makes sense. You know, he's kind of your atypical shonen hero, so he's bound to be pretty influential to the people around him. But this is also a really big deal because we learn later on, particularly at the end of the chapter, why Ichigo was given this honor, and we actually find out that he's actually the second substitute Shinigami there ever was, and we found out that there actually is one more, one that we've never known of before, and that's where the chapter comes to a close. We get to find out that Ginjo survived his attack, the Getsuga Tensho, and he actually has a brand new uniform on that kind of looks like Ichigo's Fullbring and Shinigami combination powers. And he's got his big sword out, and we finally learned for the first time that he was the very first substitute Shinigami. And it ends in this really badass panel with him standing there with his sword and his brand new uniform, and that's where the chapter comes to a close. So overall, this week's chapter of Bleach was pretty good overall. I mean, it was just more of the same mostly, but I did like some of the revelations that came from the fact that all of the Gote 13 were the reason why Ichigo finally has all of his powers back. And like I was stating earlier, it sort of speaks a lot for Soul Society in the way that they're changing. They're beginning to be a little bit more accepting of things, particularly of Ichigo himself and his powers. And that was a really, really big deal. The other thing that really was a big surprising factor for me was the revelation of Ginjo being the very first substitute Shinigami, seeing as how Ichigo is really the only other character we've seen with those abilities. And the last panel of the page, when I was talking about his uniform, I'm a little confused about how that's going to work right now. I'm sure they're going to explain it later. But it has kind of that skull and skeleton appearance that Ichigo's Fullbring and Shinigami powers had at that one point. And I don't know if this is actually Ginjo's default look when he activates his abilities, or maybe this is what it looks like now because he actually took Ichigo's abilities away. I'm not really sure why that is, but I'd like to know what you guys think, and you can let me know by leaving a comment below and giving me your thoughts about it. As a score this week, it was really hard for me to come up with this. The main reason is because I really did enjoy this chapter, but there were a few things that got on my nerves this week. The biggest thing, obviously, was there were just way too many big panels this week. And, you know, maybe this is just Kubo's style. As I stated earlier, he likes to do these really huge panels where he gets to draw full-form figures of the characters doing their attacks and everything. But more than half of the chapter this week, there were a lot of pages that were just plain white, and that was it. And a lot of big solid colors, black and white. Nothing really special, not really anything crazy in the backgrounds, but still the action was pretty entertaining. There was the revelation with the Gote 13, and of course Ginjo being the very first substitute Shinigami. And due to that, I'm going to give this week's chapter a solid 8. Remember, an 8 is still a really, really good score, and I do recommend you read it this week. It was really, really fun to read. So after you guys check out our reviews of the big three, make sure and check out our brand new project, the Anime Death Squad podcast. You can find those videos on Nostradamus' page, and basically in these videos we just talk about the big three each week. We talk about the anime that we like, video games, nerdy stuff in general. So make sure to check that out. It's really, really great. And also, if you liked this video, if you liked my review, and frankly, if you just like the way things are going in Bleach, make sure and give it a thumbs up, as it's going to get our name around the anime YouTube community. And alright guys, that pretty much wraps up things for this week. SuperKamiGuru9000, out. You want to know what Bleach looked like this week? This color. This was Bleach this week.